Welcome back for this much shorter part 2 of the hero's journey in midlife and later. If you haven't seen part 1, I highly recommend that you watch that before you watch this. It'll set a context and you'll get much more out of this second part. If you haven't been here before, my name's Michael Dewan-Herrick. I'm a psychotherapist and a life coach, currently in private practice in London. Now, please go watch the first video and come back. In this video, I want to pivot and bring in another angle on the hero's journey when embarked upon at a later age. I want to talk about how the Tibetan Buddhist notion of the bardo, the transitional experience between death and rebirth, is related to the hero's journey. It's actually another version of it. While this may be interesting by itself, it also provides a way to reconceptualize the hero's journey that makes it more accessible, but in smaller and more incremental ways. I'll explain this shortly. In my training at Naropa University in the early 80s, we had a course on death and dying. As part of the course, we learned about the Tibetan Buddhist notion of the bardo. In extremely simplified terms, the bardo is a transitional space between death and rebirth, in which many terrifying apparitions appear in the form of wrathful deities. There are instructions for how to regard and deal with these fearlessly and with equanimity, and to recognize them as merely representations of one's own mind. A successful navigation of the bardo results in enlightenment, a favorable rebirth, and the opportunity to be of help to others on the path. Does this sound a bit like the hero's journey? An unsuccessful trip through the bardo results in more confusion and suffering, an unfavorable rebirth, with much less, if anything, to offer other sentient beings. Setting aside whether or not this is actually true, it's easy to recognize several correlations with the hero's journey. I'll leave you to spot these yourself. What I found most interesting in the course was the idea that the bardo can refer to any transitional state, whenever we're between things. This could be our commute to work, changing jobs, getting pregnant, moving to another state or country, getting ready for bed, waiting for an Uber, or waiting in line for the cashier, and so on. There's a sense of not this, not that, between the place I left and the place I'm going to. In this space, there can be uncertainty, even if a little, and just some sense of what is being left behind and what is yet to come. It's also an opportunity to practice mindfulness. Okay, assuming that's true, so what? We might see the hero's journey in a similar way. Maybe all hero's journeys don't have to be long, all-consuming, and radically transformational. They don't all have to be like the bardo between death and rebirth. Maybe there are hero's excursions we can take. Maybe we can find smaller ways to depart from routine, from the status quo, from the ordinary and habitual. To depart from Kansas and the Shire and seek refreshing experiences that are both edifying and stretch us, even if it's a little bit, beyond our comfort zones. This could matter. It could make a difference. Take a different route to work. Listen to music you habitually avoid. Wear a color that people don't associate you with. Eat food you've never tried before. See a therapist instead of pretending everything's fine. Surprise your partner with something they would enjoy but not expect. The possibilities are endless. Likely no single thing like this will transform your life, but if you generally look for these opportunities and take them, the cumulative effect just might. Another option for taking the hero's excursion, one that's longer than the examples given so far, but less radical than swallowing the red pill all at once, is to take a break or a sabbatical. This means keeping your current life structure intact, but taking a break from it. Maybe you don't have to quit your job or get a divorce. You could ask for an extended time off or have a separation with your partner without having to end things. This could be a time to explore different experiences that lead to self-discovery. Maybe you do a spiritual retreat or travel somewhere you've always wanted to go. Maybe you join some group and get involved in activities that you find meaningful, interesting, and fun. Along the way, maybe you finally keep that journal you always thought would be a good idea. Such excursions can shift your perspective. They can give you the space to contemplate, clarify, and connect with what you truly want, what you want your life to be about. You might return to the same structure with a new perspective, rejuvenated energy, and a fresh sense of inspiration. Or else, maybe this excursion changes you in a way that persuades you that a bigger, more permanent change is necessary. My point is that you might not have to die to your current life in one fell swoop in order to be heroic. You could take heroic excursions. You could face down little monsters, one at a time. Maybe you don't have to take on Sauron's entire army of orcs, goblins, trolls, nazguls, wargs, and giant spiders at the Battle of Maranon. Do you think just maybe there's another way for an old fart like you? Is there another option other than resignation or wild gambles? I do. Even if shaking your life like an Etch-a-Sketch just isn't practical or wise for you at this point, there are other possibilities. Sometimes what appears as cowardice is actually prudence. On the other hand, you could discover that it's time for you to take a leap. It's up to you. In any case, ultimately, we all will receive the call. The bell will toll for thee, and we must leave Kansas. There may or may not be flying monkeys or wrathful deities, but leave we must. It may be soon, it may be later, but knowing this just might inspire us to take the journey now. Well, that's it for now. Thanks for sticking around to the end. Until next time, take care of yourself and each other, and please join me for my next video. Bye-bye.